Well, hello everyone. Here to show you right here. I'm talking about any source of a documents and any source of voice. A lot of times it sure seems that way as to where what does it usually mean when we're speaking up about something, and maybe if we're going to be making a speech about something, and maybe a few you're going to maybe include something maybe something silly or maybe something that really does not make any sense, and anything. Based on any source of grammar or lyrics or anything like that. But let's just say that if you were to start out the sentence by saying a few words about the job opportunity or about how you do business, and let's just say that the situation starts by as to where that somebody were to ask you if you can do a favor or something like do some sort of work or something like that if you're familiar with something. And so a lot of times it's like, yeah, that. So if you're going to be starting a conversation about something, and let's just say that you're going maybe to, you're going to maybe reply to that conversation, and like if you want to kind of call it just a little bit like an end quote right here, to where yeah, just kidding. And so a lot of times, what does that usually mean right there when we talk about that? Just kidding right there. And so does that pretty much mean is toward yeah that when we say just kidding right here, and like anybody says that is that another way of how to you're I'm like, yeah, that any source of signs that somebody is willing to show somebody, like anybody say that, yeah, well, really that when people want to tease around like that, or they are just looking for those moments as to where they, well, say pretty please or something like that. So a lot of times it's like, yeah, that so you start the conversation. So let's just say that, yeah, this right here is supposed to be like an invoice right here about talk about discussions about would you mind taking care of this for me? I'm like, yeah, this right here could be like a letter based on any source of discussion, right? But then it's like, yeah, that so it's like you're gonna maybe reply to that discussion and say something like yeah, well, you know no, that's that is not my department. I'm like, yeah, that's it's not my section or something like that. Yeah, or yeah, turn. It's not my section, or your yeah, turn. Go to page 3. So yeah, so it sure seems that way that whenever you're going to be starting a conversation with somebody, and a lot of times it's like, say, is toward, yeah, well, whenever you say, just kidding to somebody, what does that usually mean on average? Is that, yeah, well, just kidding. It's another way of how, somebody is able to read your interactions a lot of times. And a lot of times those interactions are going to maybe see is toward that maybe the sad face or something like, yeah, that like everybody else would say too, that you start a conversation with somebody, and they're like, yeah, most of the time it sure seems that way. It's like a 10-second pause, 10-second pause between conversations, and 10-second, and usually, and half the time that you want to know too if that's the 10 seconds, pause, and so when we think about that, though, talk about for like a 10-second pause like that. And so a lot of times if somebody's going to ask you for a favor or something in particular, and yeah, talk about over here with the speed right here. So because I know a lot of offices would say is toward, yeah, while you're on the phone with that person, they're going to maybe ask you to go ahead and send a document electronically by, yeah, if it's going to be by fax or maybe through the email service or something like that. So yeah, that a lot of times, a lot of the requests, or maybe a lot of times, it seems like over about what is the fastest and quickest way of how to be able to process this application a lot of times. And what I usually see is by electronic form or something like that. But let's just say that if you were to start a conversation with somebody, and let's just say that that you're going to maybe reply saying this toward, oh, I'm sorry, but that's not my department, or something like that. Or you're going to maybe reply saying, no, I don't do that, or something like that. And so, yeah, that most of the time, though, it sure seems that way. That when we reply to like any sorts of discussion with a no, and this is not my section right here, or something like, yeah, I only do something like that. I'm like, yeah, So if you say something like, I only do middle class, or something like that. So a lot of times it sure seems that way. That when we talk about discussions in a matter, and then knowing about for the things. I'm like, in case if anybody say that, yeah, well, really, if you're going to be talking to a customer or client, you can say you can always transfer their call to a different, like, yeah, to the direct line, or like anybody that you really need to talk to about something. But still, so it sure seems that way, that whenever you do when somebody asks you for a favor, or maybe whenever you do start a conversation about something, that a lot of times it sure seems that way, to where that you're going to include something like, just kidding, or yeah, that this is the rule right here, to where that we only do this. I'm like, yeah. So a lot of times it's like, what does it usually mean when we see that right there? Talk about for just kidding right there. And so it's like, yeah, talking about, just kidding, or, yeah, if somebody were to be teasing you about something, what does that usually mean a lot of times? And a lot of times it's like, yeah, it's like the emotional feeling most of the time, that, somebody asks for a favor or a pleasure or something like that. And for most of the time, though, it seems like anybody who you're going to be coordinating with, that a lot of times you might see that, to where that somebody's going to be waiting for that emotional feeling, toward well, really, before yeah, before a request is granted, and before that moment to where that you can I'm like, yeah, in case of so a lot of times that that's just something I think about a lot of times, that what does that usually mean whenever people do wind up teasing you about certain things. And let's just say if one of those certain things is going to maybe be a bias, as to where that, okay, that you don't do that, or I'm like, yeah, well, that's not your department, or something like that. And so that's why a lot of times it sure seems that way, that yeah, that a lot of people would use that source of method, mainly because, like, the source of interactions, mainly because of the fact about how much that they're trying to how much they're willing to interact with the manager. So let's just say if you're talking to the manager, or anybody that you're talking to, and let's just say that you start a conversation, and they're going to be asking you for any source of favor. And one of those favors is maybe going to be about, as to where, if you can do me a favor and send me a copy of that. Yeah, a lot of times it's about a copy. Send us a copy, or I'm like, yeah, send us a copy of some of that paperwork. So let's just say if it's a request a copy. So let's just say that yeah, if somebody were to say that request a copy of something, and let's just say if you're going to include, like, maybe a heart symbol or something like that. Well, what does that mean? Whenever somebody says, okay, you're going to include a heart, or maybe like any other source of symbol that you think about. And want to know too that okay, yeah, well, whatever that's supposed to mean, yeah, I'll love you more, if you're willing to do that favor for me, or something like that. I mean, I really don't even know if that really means anything in particular like that. But let's just say that you do favor for me now, and you'll get your hug later on, or something like that, or you'll get your kisses, or your special treat later on, or something like that. But still, yeah, can you send me a copy of that form? Can you send me a copy? Oh, no, I don't do that. I kind of, You say, what now? Just kidding. I can send you a copy, okay? Yeah. Yeah, I'm kidding. So it's like, yeah. So a lot of times, if you're going to be on the phone with even tech support, technical support, or if you're going to maybe be on the phone with customer service and you ask them a request for something, and they're going to maybe say something like that, that's something, yeah, we don't do that. And so I think it's just another way of how, yeah, that a lot of customer service representatives, that's another way of how they're able to read your emotional feeling toward it. Yes, it includes something such as pretty please, or how hard are you willing to work just to be able to get that office there. They're trying to get them to coordinate with you and cooperate or something like that. So I mean, I know a lot of times you may notice that a lot of times in a lot of the discussions that you have whenever it comes to working with clients or anybody else, that if you put in a request, for a copy for something or something that be verified by letterhead or something like that, or any sorts of identification verification or something like that, any sorts of documents like that, and the first thing that you're going to maybe say is toward it, yeah, that's something that you don't do, but still, that on the other hand, though, it's like, yeah, well, really, what does that usually mean whenever you do say something like, just kidding? Are they just waiting to see that look, that you have to give to them or something like that, or something like, well, hey, I'm kidding, we can take care of it, no problem. And so a lot of times it's like, yeah, so in a lot of ways that when we think about that, though, is that whenever somebody says something like that, do you think it's like anything such as maybe a mind trick or something like that? I'm like, yeah, mind trick, and like everybody else would say too that that's another way. I'm like, another way of how you want to describe a mind trick, and I really don't even know. Really, if that's really the whole point of the matter, talk about for a mind trick, to where that they're actually are waiting for you to say, pretty please or something like that. And a lot of times it seems like that is toward it. Yeah, well, pretty please. So yeah, so if anybody who's going to be working, doing customer service work would maybe see something like, pretty please or something like that, pretty thanks or something like that, and then you're going to maybe include something like, okay, I'm kidding. Yeah, I can take care of it. I can. So a lot of times, yeah, everybody else would probably say too that it seems like about how patient are you into being flexible with coordinating with somebody, such as like, yeah, if we're getting ready to close in 10 minutes or something like that, or yeah, if I'll have to transfer you to the right department. So a lot of times it seems like to me, though, that the situation is mainly about the fact about, yeah, when people, if you're, for what, depending on what mood that you're in, and also that if you're just trying to read, trying to understand about what people's interactions are whenever it comes to, whenever you tell them that, no, well, we don't do that, or something like that, or you tell them no, and it's like, yeah, well, a lot of times, a lot of customers would say something like, that they don't want to hear no, and for whatever reason that they got no, from their question, and so a lot of times it's like, yeah, you would, a lot of clients would maybe say that if you're going to include any sorts of symbols such as a heart or something like that, for that reason at all, that you're going to go and put that on there, and you want to know too is toward it, yeah, that different ways of how you want to express love, or maybe if it's the spades or something like, any other source of symbol. And at the time you want to know too that whenever you get in these discussions, a lot of times, even writing to somebody by text, that that a lot of times that you want to know too that you may not know what everything means, but at the same time, no, you start a conversation, no, and the first thing is maybe that you're going to maybe develop any sorts of interactions and relationship with this other person is to where you're going to go ahead and ask them for a favor. And let's just say that, yeah, if it's not here, I'll go ahead and try to put that back right there. But go ahead and try to start a new line right here if I can. Yeah, next line right here. But I'll go and put on here to request. To request a signature. To request or an invitation, and I know a lot of people might even say too that I in order to be able to join the meeting or something like request a signature or to request an invitation. To request an invitation. So a lot, I'm like, a lot of stuff would probably come to you by email, of course, but let's just say that if you put in so much request, and let's just say if it's by email or if it's maybe through text messages or something like that, then like everybody else will probably say too that you have it to where that you talk to somebody there in customer service or maybe in tech support, the tech support team, and they're going to say is to where you put in a request and say is to where that I'm sorry, but that's not my department, or that if you're trying to request information about something, then I can direct you to the right the tenants to be able to take care of that for you. And so a lot of times it seems like to me though that whenever you do start a conversation about something, and you're going to maybe include something such as, I'm just kidding, I'm just, especially if you're going to be multitasking, if you got a lot going on, or just knowing about, if you're just trying to read that person's mind, it's like to where the look that they're going to give to you whenever you do, respond to them, and to where they're going to ask you for something, and maybe if they're going to tell you something and by request or something like that. So a lot of times that if you say something like, I only do this or I only do that or something like that, and so it's like, if people might even say that you're going to include a symbol such as to where that, I'm asking you, for a small favor, or that, but still that. So it sure seems that way that whenever you say just kidding, no, it's like, it's all about is just toward it between that big problem or no problem at all, or if anything that, you don't quite realize. And I guess a lot of times the situation kind of goes by that as to where you don't quite realize the situation there first, or if I'm like, it's all about, I guess if it's really all about what mood that you're in, and people might say this toward that, really what gets you to change your mind a lot of times. And so whenever we talk about that, talk about the study about somebody's voice right here, the request and everything, and so it's like, treating everybody fairly right here, and so it's like, so if you're going to be writing any sorts of letter of some sort, that's basically a voice right there, and if we all think about that though, is that our voice, of course, is to where that we go ahead and write down, any thoughts and ideas that come from our mind, though, and anything about, any sorts of document based on, how well that you are, working with other customers, and handling certain situations and all that, and when we think about that, though, is that to where if you say something like, just kidding, on any source of response, and like everybody else would probably say too, that if you're going to be replying to a client and telling them that you're not doing this, or that you were only this is not your department or your study, or but so a lot of times it seems like to me that whenever people are pulling your leg a lot of times, and they're like, they're just, I'm just teasing you, so whenever somebody, if we were to actually do this study about that, to talk about, if it's psychology, though, that when people tease you about stuff like that, though, that if that's really, about the fact about is toward, what their interactions usually are whenever you do respond. And let's just say that if you respond saying no, and what their interactions usually are. And a lot of times it's like, yeah, what is their interactions most of the time? Yeah, well, what are their interactions? What are their interactions most of the time? And people might even say that, you might see maybe a sad face or something like, yeah, yeah. So, like, you might see something like that, like, okay, and I'm like, yeah. So a lot of times it's like, yeah. So yeah, so a lot of times I guess that that's like something like that is what you're waiting for whenever you do respond. Somebody asks you for a request for something, or that no, I'm not doing that, or that's something I don't do, or something like that. So a lot of times, yeah, that between the sad face or like yeah, you give somebody the heart right there, and like they want to know too, yeah, you give them the heart, like yeah, a gift of appreciation right there, and so a lot of times it's like, yeah, whenever you start a conversation with somebody, and let's just say if it's marketing tips or something like that, yeah, you're only going to be able to get this only if you purchase this, or that yeah, this is not available. I'm like, yeah, well you have to qualify first. So a lot of times, if you're going to be talking to a lot of those seniors, and a lot of those seniors are going to maybe say that as toward a hey that yeah that you have to qualify first, or yeah, you can't have yeah, you can't have a piece of cake or something like that, or yeah, a special gift or something. So yeah, it's like, so when we think about a smiley face or something like that, so when we think about these different symbols and everything, and so it's like, half the time it seems like that what you're basically are saying is toward it, yeah, that you're what you're basically are saying is that you are waiting for that person to give you that sign toward okay, are you sure about that? Well, why not? And so yeah, anybody might even say too that yeah, well, what? Why not? Why not? Yeah. So so yeah, so it's like yeah, for how much willingness. So it's like yeah. So like anybody say too that if you're going to be giving a greeting card to somebody, and let's just say that what's inside the card is maybe going to be something like maybe a message indicating toward it, asking you for a favor, or just asking you to come to this party, or I'm like, oh, yeah, so just like for a request of a favor or something like that. So let's just say if you're going to be talking to anybody, really, and let's just say that whenever you respond in like a source of way toward it, yeah, no, that's I don't, that's something I don't do, or no, I don't do that, or I'll have to see about that or something. So the way we think about that though is that if it's really about somebody testing the knowledge, or if it's really about playing the mind game to where you're waiting for those moments to where somebody to give you the happy face or the sad face, like say talk about for a pretty please or something like that, and so usually when we think about that though is that knowing yeah all these faces that we see right here, and a lot of times it's like everybody else might say that whenever you're talking to somebody though, that a lot of times that you're probably waiting for what they're going to think about whenever you tell them no, or whenever you tell them well maybe, or whenever you tell them something like I'll have to see about that or something like that, and so it's like yeah, so that's just the thing though, that whenever you try to read somebody's mind and want to know just a little bit too, what exactly is it that people are saying, and you're probably thinking too that if you say no, or if you say maybe or something like that, and so it's like whenever you do start a conversation with somebody about something, and let's just say that if it's all about positive and negative thinking or anything like that, but in a lot of ways it sure seems that way, that really there's really I really don't know if there's any rule about that, but just knowing about is toward it, for how much hard work somebody, yeah, I think that's really what it is. How much hard work and willingness somebody is willing to put into something, and if they can see that, if that person can see how hard that you worked on something, and then they say that, well, you have to qualify first, and then just knowing about what their reaction usually is, and like, and well, like I'm just kidding, I can take care of it. So a lot of times it's like, yeah, a lot of times that somebody and maybe in customer service is maybe going to react that way to where that they're going to say something like, that yeah, well, you're going to have to love the situation at some point, aren't you? To where knowing about what you like and what you dislike about something. But the first thing that you might start out with is toward it, the emotional thinking is toward it. Yeah, if somebody were to be talking to you and just knowing is toward it. Yeah, well, they're not going to like, yeah, well, like everybody says toward it. Yeah, well, that's, if that's your job or if anything that, anything in regards to taking care of something important though, and a lot of times it's like it goes by as toward it. Yeah, if you're trying to take care of something important, and let's just say that you say I'm like, yeah, well, that's something I don't do. Or if you set a rule, or a boundary about something, and people say, what? Oh, well, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I can take care of it. And so yeah, so it sure seems that way that a lot of times it's like, if that's really just about the study about how the service works, or if that's just really just a better understanding about how to to be able to form any source of a good connection and communication with the team, and so I guess that's another reason why that we cause this toward that yeah that knowing about us toward that yeah when we do the studies about whenever it comes to a conversation with somebody, and just like say is toward it, yeah, you're going to include something like, just kidding, just to say is just so that way you can just read that, the emotional feeling a lot of time about what people are thinking about. But anyway, but that's what I think is saying about it. But anyway, but for the most part though, it's like, yeah, if it's really about getting the job done, or if it's really about, like everybody else would probably say too, is toward it yeah, that you scheduled this meeting. I'm like, yeah, the original idea or whichever, but still, like everybody else would probably say too, we're just trying to get the job done, really. But still, on the other hand too, that yeah, if there's going to be any source of treat later on, or like like anybody else would probably say too, is to where, yep, I'm just kidding, or yeah. So it's like, whenever you do start any, I'm like, yeah, if you want to go ahead and cause this toward it, small favors, though, do small favors, pay off at some point. And like everybody else would probably say too, yeah, well, do you really just got to work hard enough, for that. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.